So now we have our speaker for the day. Are we ready? You ready now? 6 minutes on the clock for our speaker. It is Shannon Mercer from the Mercer Vineyards. Please welcome Shannon.
Good morning.
Good morning.
So everybody here likes wine. So the real question might be, who does not like wine? I mean, honestly, who doesn't? Really? Not a fan? I have wine that you will like. In fact, I make wine for people that don't like wine.
Here.
Here. A quick example of that might be stuff like a Bloody Mary wine, mojito wine, apple pie wine, blueberry jalapeno wine. All kind of interesting, isn't it? Who can tell me how old wine is historically in the world? Give me a number. How old is wine?
10,000 years.
Anybody else?
You can turn water to wine. Pretty good thing right here.
So I have a bunch of sommeliers that will come out to my winery, and they will, I'll ask them, how old is wine? And it's almost like being the chorus director, and they'll say 6,000 years, like it was a fact. And I'll say, well, how do we know it's 6,000 years? Well, archaeologists were in Armenia, and they went in a cave, and they discovered a winery after they did a little digging. And they dated it somehow at 6,000 years, and they call that the birth of wine. So if we use that analogy, when they dig up the Michelin plant, the wheel was invented this century. Right? I mean, that's the logic. But consider this. Beer requires a human. Spirits require a human. Wine requires nature. You with me? If a peach falls to the ground, nothing disturbs it. It sits there for 7 days, 10 days, it'll ferment. That's wine. Maybe crudely, but it's wine. And animals like it. I don't know why, but they do. I mean, I've seen butterflies get absolutely stone drunk and fall to the ground and lay there for 15 seconds, 30 seconds. And I'm thinking, man, you're pretty vulnerable at this moment. Humans observed that and they just emulated it. I could see Bob and Bill approaching, the area where fruit is, and they see these animals getting inebriated. Hey, Bob, let's go try that. And when they recover, Bill, we're taking it back to camp. We're going to be popular. Sure, it became medicinal and all those other things. Our winery in Lexington is one of 18 in South Carolina. I'm the only estate winery, which means that I grow most of everything that I produce, with the exception of some limes or stuff like that. But I don't import anything, like Cabernets, Pinots, and stuff like that. Who knows what our native grapes are? Anybody? Our native grapes? Let me disclaimer. I have hearing aids, and this acoustics suck, so I hear me really well. Muscadine, right? They are the first and oldest grapes of North America. They're quite unique from all other grapes. They have 40 chromosomes. Every other grape on earth has 38. If you've ever had a muscadine, you know the skins are really thick. They're quite unique. They grow in clusters, not bunches, so picking them is like picking blueberries, one at a time. Very labor intensive. At my winery, I am the staff. Y'all got that, right? I am the staff. Nobody else. I have 12 acres. I have 5 vineyards, and I grow 50 different varieties of muscadine. Now, there's over 400 varieties available that have been sort of hybridized, but I grow 50, and the technique is called field blending. And this is what the first humans did. They arrive on a scene, they discover that fruits will ferment. And that might even include pumpkins and things like anything with a little bit of sugar. And they would gather anything and everything that was available at a given time, take it all, skin and all seeds, and they would put it in a pot in the ground and wait. The beginning of humans' interaction with nature's wine. That's what I do. And when I got started in this business, I had no background in wine. I really don't drink. I'm not opposed to it. I just don't drink. I taste my wine, but I don't really drink that much. This is a form of art for me. But they would do this field blending, and you never know what you're going to get. So this isn't how commercial wineries work. So when I got started, I deliberately didn't do any research. I said, I want to discover it like Bob and Bill did. And did what I thought was a natural sequence for human evolution, if you will. And after about 3 years, which I really couldn't drink the first 3 years, they were pretty bad. I'm not sure why, because I kept doing the same thing and they got better. But so I'm 100% organic, one of only 10 in the country, no chemistry in the field, no fertilizers, pesticides, herbicides, nothing. But they're indigenous, they want to be here, the grapes anyway. I harvest these 50 different varieties across 5 different vineyards. And let's say one of the vineyards has 15 variety. I take those, I put it in pots in the ground. I let them wait, they ferment, all the heavy stuff settles out, the alcohol goes up. I taste them and they're quite interesting. Bourbon notes, Spanish sherry notes, really interesting stuff. Muscadine like you would never believe. In fact, what would be the synonymous word for muscadine? All muscadine wine is? Right, but it's not. That's a southern problem, not a grape problem. I mean, tea doesn't grow sweet, right? We make it that way. Same thing with wine. If you let wine do what it's supposed to do, it'll be dry and it'll be high alcohol. So we basically something similar to this. I'm not quite that large, but we basically bury the wine in the ground. After I discovered how this was done, and I came back and checked it, turns out that's not how anybody's making wine. I seem to be the only guy around doing it. Everybody else wants big shiny tanks, and they want to filter, and they want to do all this other stuff. So, and I do a little bit of that too, but my natural wines are the ones that are most interesting. You don't know what you're going to get. So, that's how we do it. Put it in the ground. I'll just flash through a couple of these because my timer says that I'm done. Am I done already? That was quick. I could talk for 3 days about wine, and maybe not even take a break. I don't know. We do have a wine garden if you want to come out and have an event there. That's the property, 12 acres, 5 vineyards. The winery side is in Lexington zip code. Most of the vineyards are in Gilbert, so I do import a lot of my wines from Gilbert. We're going to start a wine school. The Columbia Wine School starts this fall at the winery. We have the fellow who invented the Boston, or invented, started the Boston Wine School. He'll be down. He's a sommelier, and you know he's the only sommelier I trust because he's not too pretentious. He's going to do wines and cheeses. There'll be certificates, and it's a no snob event. And if you ever want to have some fun, ask me later where the word snob came from, and you'll find out how interesting it is. But that's the outside of the winery. Vineyard, there's the map, sort of relative. We're 20 miles from here, just at the edge of Lake Murray, between number 1 and 378. And I have a penny floor with 268,000 pennies on the floor. I'm a staff of 1. And we do have 18 wineries in South Carolina. You should check them out. This is the Facebook page, SC Wines and Vines. If you go there, they have a tendency to sort of put their events so you don't have to go to each of their pages, and you can find a one-stop shop. So I could just go on. I just barely even scratched the surface. But if you have questions, and I hope you do, lots of them, just remember, I can't hear real good. So just give me all you got.
All right, well, first let's give him a hand.
Oh,